Greetings. Happy Thursday. Hope this day finds you safe, healthy, happy, and thriving wherever you are, whatever you're doing, however you're doing it. Hope you're enjoying it and just living your best life. So here we are, another day. Interesting times, huh? It's just, it's amazing. My beloved Lisa and I just got back from 11 days in Colorado, which I consider to be home. I lived in Colorado for 46 years. Lisa lived there for over 20. And we just went home and saw some friends, and it was really kind of funny. After living here in North Carolina for coming up on 3 years, I was living in an alternative reality. On one hand, I was on vacation. On the other hand, I was I was home, and it depended on where I was, who I was with. And it wasn't something that would be like, several hours feeling like I was on vacation, several hours feeling like I was home. No, it was minute by minute. It was very strange. And add to that, the political craziness, the stuff that's just going on in our country was like mind-boggling. It was just boom, 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 just kept happening. We were there for the Saturday night. Was it Saturday night? It was Saturday. This Saturday evening thing at the rally where the guy took a shot at the former president. And that was, we happened to be in a room full of old friends, or like four couples that were like really tight and close knit for years and years and years. And because of COVID and because our move and one of the other couples moved, we hadn't seen each other in like 5 years, maybe even 6. So we all got together, and right in the middle of that is when the shot heard around the world happened. But anyway, so that was part of the whole craziness of what was going on. And then, of course, at the very end of it, the president resigned. Not resigned. I'm sorry, that's not true. He did not resign. He shouldn't resign. There's no reason for him to resign. He withdrew from the presidential campaign, from the race, and basically handed the torch to his vice president, Kamala Harris, who is now the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, because she's got almost all the delegates she needs. I think already pledged to her before they even get to the convention, which is very cool. Anyway. That'll be part of the conversation we're going to have here today, I think. But I wanted to talk about the books I've been reading, because you guys, if you pay attention to the show, you know that I picked up an old habit and started reading 5 or 6 books at a time. And I was reading 5 at a time, and I finished this one here, Anne Lamott's great book, Somehow. And I finished the third in why can't I ever get this right? I feel like I don't even know where I am. Michael Singer's trilogy, The Untethered Soul, The Surrender Experiment, and Living Untethered was the third book, and I finished that of the 5 that I was reading. And a reminder of the 3 I'm still reading, which would be Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, Howard Falco's I Am. This one, I should have been through this one already, but it got really slow in the middle because he goes through a whole thing on addiction, and he touches on way too many different types of addiction for someone like me who has been sober for 36 years. It's kind of funny. There was a redundancy to it that slowed me down reading it, but I'm through that piece, and so now I'll finish the book. And of course, my entertainment book, Keith Richards' Life. Somewhere in here he says, this is the life. Believe it or not, I haven't forgotten any of it. Thanks and praises, Keith Richards. So I'm still reading that one. And you know what? Completely forgot here today. Before we go into what's next, we're going to stop by Dr. Holmes, see what he has to say. And I don't have my light here, so bear with me. I place my affairs in the hands of goodness, love, and wisdom. I place them there with supreme confidence. I have a childlike faith and trust in good. I know there is nothing between me and that which is best. I am filled with enthusiastic hope. I look forward to entering into the fullness of life. Wow. Gotta love that one. To have that confidence, to know that whatever is best in my life is at hand. It's always at hand. It's a series of choices, or a choice, just individual choice, but it's always at hand. It's always right there for me to decide to participate in the best. It's the fourth agreement with Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. The 4th agreement is always do your best. And if you always do your best, then there's kind of a continuum there where you're always thinking about the best. You're always striving for the best. You're always accepting the best. You're always knowing that the best is what you do. It's just who you are. So that's good because there you go. I just threw a whole bunch of stuff on the floor. You're going to have to give me a second here because I have to go get that. Hold on. There you go. I'm sorry. You know, when you try and pick up several books at once and the middle ones slide out? Well, that's just what happened. So we were in Colorado and we were visiting. We spent the first 4 days with 2 dear friends. And then we stayed in a hotel for one night because I wanted to be close to my Wheat Ridge Optimist Club meeting. So we stayed in a hotel near the 44th and Kipling or 42nd and Kipling where the optimists meet. And I can see you guys are out there. You got a question, thought, comment, got something I want to talk about, please dump it in the comments there. I'll be glad to address it. Then we went to 2 friends who live in way out east of the metro area. And I've never really been there before. I didn't even know it existed. This area is a beautiful community of 55 plus, and it's huge. They have an incredible golf course and a clubhouse and just a really great thing. But my friend Larry and his wife Deborah, who live there, Larry's the one who gave me the Daily Stoic. And the Daily Stoic is something I read along with my Science of Mind 365 and my Science of Mind textbook and another daily read I got from the Unitarian Universalists around a daily read around recovery. And but he gave me the Daily Stoic, and I love it. And I was joking about the fact that I don't know how many quotes I have read over the years from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus or a whole bunch of other people who were considered the Stoics, and I had no idea that's who they were. But the Stoic wisdom is really something that kind of fascinates me. It's really about just getting along with life, about just life is. And it's about not railing against life. It's around not pushing back against life. It's about the Krishnamurti quote that I've used several times here. I don't mind what happens. It's kind of that kind of an attitude. But always, once again, like the reading from Dr. Holmes that I started the show with, it's always about doing the best, seeking the best. To live, there is no, I think it's a Marcus Aurelius quote, one cannot live a joyful life unless one lives virtuously. I think that's one of the great quotes in the world. You cannot live a joyful life unless you live virtuously. Now I'm just gonna say something here, and you can take this with how many grains of salt you want. But if we look at our politics, look at the very top of our politics here in the United States. The joyful people are the ones who are living virtuously. The people who never smile, never laugh, talk about everything going to hell in a handbasket, they're not living a virtuous life. And you can take that with however many grains of salt you want and take that however you want. But anyway, going back to the book thing where I was reading 5 books at once. I finished 2. I still have the 3 thickest books, of course, as luck would have it. You all know that I love to read, but I'm a painfully slow reader. The 3 thickest books will take me the longest to read. But I'm adding some new books that came to me while I was away, actually, which is really very cool. The first one is Ernest Holmes Seminar Lectures. This is a book that's out of print, and my friend Larry, who sent me the Daily Stoic book, he lent me this book for me to send back to him. But it's a bunch of lectures. It's small snippets, basically, if you will, of Ernest Holmes live out in the world, which I'm really interested to read. The next thing is something I picked up. There was a freebie we of course went to visit Mile High Church the 2 Sundays that we were there. And at the practitioner counter at the Prayer and Care Center, the second Sunday was the collected essays of George Bendall. Now, I had never heard of George Bendall, but George Bendall was a good friend of Ernest Holmes and actually lived with Ernest Holmes for the last 2 years of his life, lived in his house as his caretaker, his right-hand man. Ernest Holmes, of course, died in 1960 at age 72. So this guy lived with him from 58 through 60, which was very interesting. So I'm interested in reading his stuff because it's all directly related to his relationship with Holmes and what he got from that. The other thing was, this is really pretty amazing. While we were in Aurora, we had our spiritual circle, which I've talked about on the show before, and the subject was the Stoics, which I had just talked about. And so, and Larry was asking me if I had ever read the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, which is really quite a famous book. And I said no. And so when I got back to North Carolina here, this was waiting for me. Meditations, the philosophy classic of Marcus Aurelius. This is a series of, it's almost like a diary kind of thing that he kept, writings of what was going on in his world while he was emperor of Rome, which I'm looking forward to reading that. And then last but not least, and certainly not least, is a book I had heard about on watching clips of the news. And I saw an interview with the person I think is perhaps the single most brilliant person in journalism today. She does a lot of opinion pieces, but she's an historian, and she is a scholar, and she is a brilliant mind. That's Rachel Maddow. And she wrote this book, prequel, The American Fight Against Fascism. And this is a kind of a history of us as a country and how we have had our ebbs and flows and our dalliances with fascism. And obviously, anyone who's paying attention now knows that we are certainly having a dalliance with fascism. But anyway, let me have a swig. I put up for today's topic is where do we go from here? And the reason I put it up is because I made a post on social media the other day, and I don't remember exactly what it was. And someone who actually is a science of mind practitioner, and if I can be judgmental for a moment, this person has always been in my mind a bit of a poser, actually quite a bit of a poser. But that's okay. That's who he is. It's his journey, whatever. But he came back at me and gave you've embraced the duality and you're ego driven and all kinds of crap that he threw at me. But it made me stop and think about the fact that we can do a real, a life bypass, if you will, if we get too caught up in the idea of the duality is the big illusion. Well, that's true, and maybe not so true. I believe that any thought around duality around the spiritual is nonsense. There's only one of us here. But I also believe that one of us is experiencing itself via our activity, via the activity of its creation. And that would be you and me. And in that creation, we absolutely create dualities. We create diversities. We create comparisons. Esther Hicks and Abraham talk about it all the time, that you have to have the comparison to know what you want and what you don't want, what you seek and what you don't seek. And likewise, that can be considered, and then maybe it's all in phrasing, maybe it's all just semantics, but that can be a duality. And I think at this point in our history, and this is going to be a little political, and you can take it however the hell you want, but I believe that there is a duality in opinion. There is a duality in thought. There is a duality in integrity. There's a duality in morality. And it's all within the non-duality of spirit, of God, of all there is. And I think it's imperative that we don't get caught up in the false equivalency of, all politicians are the same. Oh, both parties do everything the same. They're all controlled by this, that, and the other thing. You know what? There's a lot of truth to that. I believe that our politics are way too controlled by money, by billionaires, by corporations, by interest, by profit at all costs. The American way. My biggest bitch about our entire country is probably that it's around profit at all costs. But there is a side to be taken. There is a point of view where you have to be able to see that one side is doing stuff to us, the other side is doing stuff for us. And you have to be able to recognize that is a duality. It's a duality in the human experience. It's not a duality in the spiritual. It's not a duality in the great scheme of the universe where there's only one. There's only one of us. What do you think out there? I know you're out there. Just send me a comment if you have my phone number. Send me a text, whatever. What do you think about that? My point of view is that we cannot do. It's not really a spiritual bypass. It's a life bypass where we just push everything off as God will take care of it. It's all God's will. Nobody knows what God's will is, so don't tell me it's all God's will because you have no clue. We have no clue. I have no clue what God's will is. What we do have is the ability to give God the experience of our existence, of the experience of its creation, which is how it experiences itself. Remember Roger Teal used to say that my favorite "How you doing" response that I've only had the gumption to use once or twice, and that was, "How you doing? I'm showing God a good time." Bingo. God's experiencing a great time through my existence, through my life. And again, I go back to that Stoic quote. One cannot live a joyful life unless one lives virtuously. There's the question for all of us. Am I living virtuously? Am I expressing virtuously? And I guess that's where I take the political and bring it back to the personal. Am I involving myself in the success politically of the virtuous or the not so virtuous? What will make me joyful? The virtuous or the not so virtuous? Now, I know for myself, when I get into those political arguments on social media, I know at certain times I'll make a post, and it's the worst thing for me is if I make it late in the day and I go to bed thinking about it going, geez, I wish I hadn't said that. Or I could have said that differently, or I could have been kinder. That's when I'm not so virtuous and I'm not so joyful because I wasn't so virtuous. The other thing that came out of all these conversations in our social circle, in our spiritual circle, was the idea that we get involved in the political season, and I'm up to my eyeballs in it because of what's going on and who I'm fighting for. And that's the point. Famously, Mother Teresa was asked to join a march protesting the Vietnam War, and she said no. She said, but when you find a march or a protest for something, as opposed to opposed to something, let me know, I'll be there. And there's the key for me. This is my work. It's my work starting since I got back. I have not really done it very well, but I'm working on it. There is this thing out there called Project 2025. Project 2025 is the marching orders from the Heritage Foundation for the next conservative administration. In this case, they have a useful idiot all lined up. Hopefully that useful idiot will never get a chance to implement those things. But that didn't sound very loving, did it? There have been people who have spent the time to bullet point what this 930 some odd page document is all about. My work, my job is to pick those things out. Is to pick out the ones that are going to be destructive to our way of life. And rather than rail against them, to express them from the loving standpoint. You know, there's the negative and then there's the positive. And awareness is the ability to close the gap between the two so that the negative doesn't last very long before it turns into the positive or before I mentally turn it into the positive. So I'm going to look at all of these bullet points for this document, these marching orders, and I'm going to decide a positive way to express what we love about this particular thing, this service, this organization, these rules, these regulations that we love. Why we need these things in our lives and why we must make sure we keep them. And of course, by making sure that Project 2025 doesn't exist or doesn't come to pass. It's a big chore. It's a big chore, but it's from the standpoint of love. It's from the standpoint of if you know, everything is an expression of love or a call to love. And actually, this is something I've really, really, really been terrible at in my adult life is the call to love is what's going on in our politics. That's the call to love. And in the duality of our politics, I think we need to stop and say which side is the negative and which side is the positive or the loving side, and express the loving side only. Don't express the negative side. Just express the positive and express the loving. So that's my work for this political season, is to absolutely look at what is out there that I really, really, really can't stand, that I can't believe it's actually going to happen. I can't believe there's a possibility of it happening. And rather than express it like that, to express it from the standpoint of, I absolutely love my Social Security check. The evisceration of the Social Security Administration would cause a tremendous disruption in my Social Security check. I love that Social Security check. I love that Franklin Delano Roosevelt created the Social Security system that allows for people who are older and people who are disabled, people who are in need of constant care, that there's a system that they can depend on through the government that they have paid into over the entirety of their working career. I love that we have that, and we need to keep it, as opposed to railing against Project 2025's determination to disembowel the Social Security system. Get the idea? I hope. It's what else have we got? I'm trying to think of one of the idea is to do away with the Environmental Protection Agency, do away with the Department of Education. I love the Environmental Protection Agency because I was alive. I remember. You people who were born in the 70s and 80s, you don't remember that in the 70s, in the early 70s, mid 70s, there were rivers in this country that you could light a match and the river would burn because there was so many freaking chemicals in it. We have clean water in those. There was a time, the Hudson River in New York, if you fell in the Hudson River in New York, or if you went swimming in the Hudson River in New York, the next thing you needed was a gamma globulin shot so you didn't get freaking hepatitis from the water in the Hudson River. That river is way cleaner now. I'm certainly not drinking water, but it's not poisonous. And the rivers in, God, I want to say it was Ohio. I'm not sure, Chicago. In Illinois, where the rivers literally burned. We don't have that anymore. I love that the EPA helped solve that problem. I love that you can see New York City and you can see Los Angeles most of the time because the Environmental Protection Agency helped us clean up our air. I love that they have helped us to move towards cleaner emissions from our internal combustion engines of all kinds, and especially of cars, so that we can breathe. I love the Environmental Protection Agency. Do you get what I'm saying? As opposed to these lunatics want to tear it apart. Yes, the lunatics want to tear it apart, but what I resist persists. What I focus on expands. So I focus on the loving piece of how much I care about these institutions. The Department of Education, it couldn't be more imperfect. The Department of Education is just, we're still working on a 150-year-old education system that teaches farm kids how many eggs are in a dozen and teaches everybody else how to be good citizens and factory workers. That doesn't exist anymore. Why are we still using the system? But we are. The Department of Education needs to be reformed. There's no two ways about it. In fact, I've many times said it needs to be torn down and rebuilt, but not done away with. I love that the Department of Education is there to help to do the best they can possibly do to ensure that our children are educated. Yes, we need to add civics back into our education. We need to add arts, music, the gym. We need to add all those things back into education. We need to figure that all out. We need to put the money into the Department of Education. We need to put the money into schools so that ceilings aren't falling in on teachers. We need to put the money into all schools, not charter schools, not schools that are isolating our children from one another. That's just another social construct of segregation of one way, shape, or form. I love the integration of the school system. I love that they provide good school books for our kids. I love that they do everything they can to make sure that our children are educated. Get the point? love our way into what it is that we desire out of our government, out of our elected officials, damn it, out of the President of the United States. We have a whole new presidential structure right now. We have an opportunity in this country. We have always had, it's not always, mostly in our lifetimes, in my lifetime, it has been all white men who've been in charge. Keb Mo has a great song out there. Keb Mo, Kebmo. His name is Kevin Moore, but he had a niece or a nephew or somebody who could never say his name. They called him Keb Mo, and that became his stage name. Keb Mo has a song out there called Put a Woman in Charge. Go listen to the song. Put a woman in charge. We have an opportunity here at this stage of this country, at this stage of our lives, to change the structure, to change the way things have been. I love that possibility. I love that we can drop a generation, that we can go from 80-year-old men to a 59-year-old woman. I love that idea. It's about time we put a woman in charge. It's about time the divine feminine was running the show and get rid of the paternalistic BS that we've been living with for the entirety of our lives. It's time. It's time. That's it for me. That's all I got for you. I hope it's not too much of a rant. I hope it wasn't too political for you. I want you to remember that New Thought Media Network is a nonprofit organization. Please go to ntmedia.org, click on donate, and we are as thrilled as we can be for whatever it is that you choose to donate to us. We love your support without question. If you want to reach me, you can find me at teamrockitnow@gmail.com. Never forget that this show is brought to you by HempWorks, makers of HempWorks coffee, the absolute best hemp-infused coffee on the planet. 5 milligrams of CBD in every single cup, along with some chaga mushrooms for your health. And of course, my favorite, my CBD oil, the absolute best, purest, cleanest, highest potency CBD oil, that you're going to find anywhere. Comes in both full spectrum, which has that legal limit of 0.3% or less of THC, just an additional cannabinoid for your health. Or we have broad spectrum, which has, 100% no THC, THC free. So if you have a rare allergy to THC, or if you have a really, really, really sensitive drug test that you take for work or something, the broad spectrum is for you. Comes in this 750 milligram, which is my choice, but it also comes in 500 milligram and 1500 milligram. It comes in more flavors than you can shake a stick at. And it's just the best that there is. All of the HempWorks, by the way, the HempWorks brand comes under the umbrella of My Daily Choice. MyDailyChoice.com/Ken Ludwig will give you access to HempWorks and 32 other brands that are amazing. You can find me, or just, yell at me, or do whatever you want with me at evolving_hippie on Instagram. Once again, my email address is teamrocketnow@gmail.com. Hempworks.com/Ken Ludwig will get you to my page on HempWorks to get you the absolute best prices. And of course, newthoughtmedia.org. Click on donate. We're thrilled to have you, whatever it is that you give to us. As always, I am immensely grateful for the great gift of your time and your attention. I wish you all the love and all the blessings that the universe has to offer. I hope you will join me every Thursday at 2:00 Mountain Time, 4:00 Eastern Time. And until the next time, my friends, namaste.